Cloud. I'm gonna make a transcript. There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining our call today on the Beaches Indicators for Education. My name is Allison Owenby, and I am the Director of Data Research and Strategic Initiatives at the Nonprofit Center. And so today's conversation is the product of a year of work, a little bit longer than a year now, collaborating with the Beaches Action Collaborative to build a data product for their use and the community's use for them to be able to understand what's going on in the community. And so today I'm going to do a demo of the Beaches Action Collaborative website, and just kind of show you kind of what some of the data is showing us on there. We'll talk a little bit about the beach community overall and what trends we're seeing in population. And then we'll dig deeper into education and some of the things that we're seeing from an education perspective. The biggest takeaway for you all from this conversation is that when it comes to education for kids at the beach, they're outperforming most other geographies in the region, right? So the children out at the beach are doing better when it comes to educational outcomes. There's high levels of educational attainment among adults that live at the beach, um, extremely significant. Almost 60% of adults at the beach have a bachelor's degree or higher. And so as we kind of go through these different statistics, you'll see how they all align. I think for me, the biggest takeaway from this is really around the population decline of children at the beach, right? So we've seen that population decrease over the past 10 years. And so we'll kind of go through some of those statistics in a moment. Um, I usually go through my whole little PowerPoint presentation, but I think most of you all were on the call yesterday except for Beth, but I think Beth is pretty familiar with some of our data work, so I won't go too far down that rabbit hole. Um, but I do want to share, hold on, let me start here. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to skip a few slides, but I did want to just share a little bit about the beaches region, right? So Beth, I'm not sure if you've attended one of these calls. You have? Okay, you did. Never mind. I'm gonna
Yes,
skip.
a couple
I'm gonna
months ago
skip.
I did. Yep,
Okay,
in the
I'm gonna
know.
skip this then. I'm gonna completely skip it. I'm gonna say, let's just pull up the beaches project dashboard. And so Beth, if you attended the last education session, we've added some different statistics to the dashboard, so we'll go through those as well. So let me share my screen with this
I
project
just want
now.
to ask a question.
Yes, ma'am.
There are 90 some people that are on the back mailing
Mm-hmm.
list,
Mm-hmm.
and there are only four of us here. And I don't even know if you all are on the back or not. But do you have a feel for why? Have they heard this before? Not in the same
Um,
detail.
Not in the same detail. No, we had a really good showing. The first round of sessions we had in February
Right.
of back participants. I think the conflict here may arise from just Easter being
Easter.
this week, and that was probably a bad choice on my part to pick this week to host the sessions. Um, Not all the back participants are on our mailing list. So we've shared out these sessions with kind of the nonprofit center's mailing list. And as folks from back interact with our organization, we add them, but we don't have the same kind of touch points. So
So I can ensure the next time I get an email
mhm,
regarding this that it goes to the back mailing list.
that'll be great. I love
They
that.
may be duplicated, but still, at least it's going out to
Mhm.
people. Okay,
Okay,
good.
that'd
Thanks.
be so
Sorry.
wonderful. No, thank you. I appreciate any help that we can get promoting this is exciting on my part for sure. Okay, so this is our website. So over here, when you go to, you can access this from a few different ways from the Catalyst Northeast Florida website. You can access it. So we'll try that really quick. CA, go here. So if you go to Catalyst Northeast Florida, you can access it by clicking here and going to our North Florida beaches. You can access this from the BAC Beaches Action Collaborative website. It's linked there directly, and then you can also access it by the nonprofitcenter.org website. And so as you come onto the website, you'll see kind of the different areas of focus for the data. Overview of the beach, economic vitality, education, food insecurity, housing and homelessness, and physical health, mental health, and health care. And so there's a little acknowledgement here about for the Beaches Community Fund, as well as the Community Foundation for Northeast Florida and the Beaches Action and Collaborative, which looking at this now, I should probably link to their website on here.
Mhm.
I'll make that adjustment after this call. Um, but we're going to start really here around overview of the beach. And we've all seen this map before. This is the Beaches Action Collaborative footprint that takes us north of Mayport, south to Ponte Vedra, and a little over the intercoastal. Um, and so I do want to just call out a little bit of information. So this data was updated since our last call. And so you can see here that the total population of the beaches collaborative footprint is about 115,000. We're trending a little bit more female as compared to male in that region, so about 51% to 49, which is consistent, right? When you think about sex demographics.
Mhm.
We have just kind of seen here how the population has changed. So let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. I don't think I can. But you can see here how the population has grown from around 80,000 in 1990. We had a high here of about 110,000, dipped a little bit lower to 107, and now we're at around 115 with still projected growth in the future. We think that this footprint will continue to grow to about 122,000. When we look at race and ethnicity at the beach, um, it's an interesting kind of mix of individuals. So when we look here over time, the green line at the top of the page is white residents. So white residents have increased a lot over time. Let me remove the other races from this real quick. We'll just check out white. So we had about 69,000 white individuals in 1990, and that was a high in 2020 with about 93,000 and dropped a little bit more recently to about 89,000, a little bit more, which this is still projected to kind of continue to increase. Um, but when we look at Hispanic and Latino and Black households, you can kind of see almost an opposite arc here. So you can see Black residents increasing to a high in the 2000s and then getting lower more recently, which is down to about 5,000 now. So the high is around 8,700. Now we're down to about five for Black residents. And the opposite for Hispanic and Latino, right? So we've got here 2,400 individuals, and this is continuing to climb where right now we're at about 10,700 with some pretty sharp increases over time. And Asian is quite low and but trending upward, right? And when it comes to a hard number population percentage. And then this is just a breakdown of the same kind of race and ethnicity totals. So you can see here just overwhelmingly the beach is well white, right? So 77% of the population there is white, with 9% being Hispanic and 5% Black, with another 5% that's two or more races and 3% Asian. Negligible some of the other racial categories. When we look at the age makeup of the region, again, this is interesting here. Our median age, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, is 45.4, which is, is pretty significantly almost 10 years older than the age makeup of Duval County overall. Um, Children, people under the age of 18 make up about 20% of the Beaches Action Collaborative footprint, which is lower than Duval County overall, which is 22%. And then 21% is of seniors, which is comparable to Duval County's 15%. And then this chart kind of just looks at population growth for 18 and over time. So you can see it's kind of a significant jump here in the number of folks with a little bit lower off here for people over the age of 18, and then under the age of 18 has kind of started at about 19,000, went up to about 26, and then gone um, a little bit lower more recently with a little bit of a rise in 2022. Um, when we look at age totals, I think this is a really helpful graph to understand where the total percentage of the populations lie when it comes to these groups. So we can see here that under 5 to 9, and 10 to 14 are the probably second lowest percentage of the population is under the age of 5, and 2% on the other end is 85 and older. So some of the highest age ratio percentages are those, and the highest one actually is 13%, which is made up of 65 to 74, people aged 65 to 74. And then the second highest is around um, 45 to 54 and 25 to 34. So you're seeing, young professionals, a lot of young professionals. You're seeing a lot of middle-aged folks, aged 45 to 54, and then a lot of new retirees, right? So 65 to 74, making up the majority of the population of the beach. And then let's go ahead and go over to education here. And so the educational dashboard is made up into three different groups: preschool and early education, K through 12 education, and then regional educational attainment. And so in here we show this is all new numbers as compared to the last time that we reviewed this data. We see here that the population of children aged 3 to 4 is about 2,000. So this is primarily for preparing for enrollment in VPK and pre-K 3. So we see that about 60% of those students are enrolled in preschool, and that equates to about 925 students. Uh, and then this is just a map that shows a little bit about where children are enrolled in school and some of the places where that is highest. So let's take a look at this. Hopefully it'll work. There we go. So here we can see kind of the variation between preschool enrollment. Up by the Mayport base, it's about 15%, 0% here in this tract, maybe, whereas this one's about 100%. and it changes from 100% as we move across. So we've got some really great pockets of participation in preschool and some where there's less participation, which is interesting to me. Um, I want to go down to education here because this is where we added some of the new data that was available. Um, when we look here, we see public school enrollment and private school enrollment are just both kind of continuing on a downward trend. So we see about 17,000 students at the back enrolled in public school and 5,000 in private. Now, this doesn't necessarily take into account homeschool groups, but this does show where those students live who are enrolled in private school by zip code. So we can see here the majority, there's about 3,000 students enrolled in private school in zip code 32225. 2,000, almost close to 3 in 32224, which is interesting to me that there's not more in this zip code, 1,600 in 32250, and less even in 32266. So it'd be interesting to me to do some overlays here with age of the residents of this, right? And kind of overlaying this enrollment data with the age of the population that lives in the zip code, so you can better understand, is this an older zip code, and if it is, the lower um, enrollment numbers make sense. But here you can kind of see this is comparatively enrollment in private public school. So this first one was private. This is public, and you can see it's changed a little bit. So we've got a high of 0 to 7,700, a high of 10,000. All right, so this is going to be the highest zip code with public school enrollment. And still, these are lower still, but quite high comparatively. So 4,000 students here enrolled in public school. If we look back up here, it was 966 in private. 4,900 in public school here in 32250. And let's look, we've got 1,600 in private. So these are interesting statistics, 212 in private versus 964 in public school. This chart here just shows public or private enrollment over time. And you can see here within the beaches community, private school reached a high in about 2000 with it kind of tapering off just a little bit more recently to about 5,236. And then in public school was another high in 21,000 and 2,000, tapering off in 2022 with about 17,000 enrollees. This is math and reading performance, and we were able to find some zip code level data for math student performance in math and student performance by reading. And so we weren't able to get this zip code for some reason. There wasn't any data available, but there was data available for some of the other zip codes. And so that's exciting for us to be able to find that. So here you can kind of see how student proficient in math varies at the beach. Um, we see here some of really high percentages, 32250. So this is overall proficient in math, right? So this is not necessarily one grade. It's all grades K through 12 proficiency in math. We can't break it down any further. We used to be able to by grade levels, by zip code, but that data was allowing people to kind of target specific schools. And so you can see on a school by school basis their like their grade performance, but not in this kind of aggregate geographic level view, unfortunately. Okay, anyways, so we see,
Question.
yes, ma'am.
Are the zip codes that you're looking at is that like residential zip code or like school zip code
You,
of the school
this is where the children live.
where they live? Okay,
Hmm.
based on their
Yes,
residence. Okay, thanks.
yes, yes. So this is 32250. So this is the highest proficiency in math versus over here 54%. This one's 73.
Allison, you're determining proficiency by like the state test.
Yes. Yes. And then this one here is proficiency in reading. Sorry, let me zoom in a little bit. And so kind of similarly, like if we put the two maps above each other, you see similar information, right? So this is 59% proficient in reading, almost 60%. This is a little bit higher at 64% math. This is 73% in reading, and this one is 75% in math. 64 versus 62. Um, This one is around graduation rate, and this hasn't changed since the last time we reviewed this data. But overall graduation rate data we could find was at a county level. And when we compare St. Johns County to Duval, we see that St. Johns has a comparatively higher high school graduation rate. And this is just kind of how it's changed over time, right? So St. Johns County started at about 67 I'm sorry, Duval was at 67%, St. Johns was at 88%, and we've kind of changed over time where we were almost the same back in 2019, 2021. And then more recently, we've seen kind of St. John's stay elevated and Duval kind of go down. These two data points here are new ones that we added since the last time we shared this data. So this is about connected and disconnected youth, right? So this highlights kids who are age 16 to 19 who are either enrolled in school or currently employed. And so the majority of youth at the beach would be considered as connected, right? So they're either in school or they have a job when they fall into this 16 to 19 age range. But 4% of those would be considered disconnected, right? So either are not doing either of those things. So they're not in school and they don't have a job. So these are the kind of kids that we need to be most concerned about that are falling through the cracks. And so this kind of shows us, and kind of conversely, where the majority of connected youth are, right? And again, we can overlay some of this with population data, but the majority of connected youth are in these areas here. And so I'll take a takeaway from this to add some geographic mapping around disconnected youth here as well, because I think it's important to understand where youth are that, may be at risk. And then here we have just digital access, right? So more and more students are needing to have internet access to be able to complete school activities and interact with their teachers. And so this data and statistics talk about households with internet access and households without internet access. And it's always interesting to me to even think about a household that doesn't have internet within the home, right? And so some of this data, children may be able to interact with the internet on a parent's cell phone or things like that, but these are not, these homes are not connected to broadband internet. So we've got overwhelming majority of 47,900 households have internet, but there's about 1,400, maybe close to 1,500 households without. And then this graph here kind of shows students without internet access or a computer by grade at the beach, right? So we're looking here around, 23% of pre-K to fourth grade without internet, 8% of fifth to eighth grade. The majority of the kids that don't have internet are at the high school level, which, may be the most concerning
Yeah.
amount of kids.
Yeah, for sure.
So right now, you can see here, uh, ninth through 12th grade without internet or no computer device is around 460. And then if you hover over these statistics, you see kind of the hard number behind the percentage. So undergraduate or higher, 132, about 200 K through fourth grade.
Do you know how that data is collected for internet usage or,
A little bit of
for access?
Mm-hmm. This data is collected through the American Community Survey, and so it's self-report data that's then aggregated to the different geographic levels. And so the census though is every 10 years. The American
Right.
Community Survey is conducted every year, and every year results of the survey is published in November, and then typically our data is updated here in December. Last year, there was a delay in publication because of the government shutdown that happened.
Right.
And so this data was just updated for us as of, I think, February 2026. So this is the
And I'm assuming
most.
you're able to drill down. I'm seeing below
Mhm.
this the map. Okay.
Yes,
Thank
yep.
you.
So we can go here, households without internet, and just see kind of where the households without internet are. So the dark regions are the ones that we need to be the most concerned about. And those are the ones, primarily that are over the intercoastal line here. So we look here, we can see this area and this area. So we don't have to worry too much about the beach proper for this kind of data. We did try to do some correlational analysis here between correlation between internet access and poverty, right? So households without internet. So when we think about it from a mapping perspective, each dot on this graph is a census block group or census tract within the beach's footprint. And this is trying to find a correlation between houses without internet and houses below poverty, right? So if you think about a geographic region as um, poverty levels increase, we are be able to find a strong positive relationship between those houses also not having internet access. Let me go here. And then for academic achievement at the beach, again, like I shared before, overwhelmingly, people at the beach are highly educated, right? So they have bachelor's degrees at a very high level, graduate degrees at a very high level. And so the majority of folks have these two things. And when we even compare it to Duval County, right, you see significantly more percentage of the population has these master's degrees here, which is back is the blue bar, and bachelor's degrees, where Duval County is comparatively less. Much more residents of Duval County have a high school diploma um, only compared to the beach, and more have just some college than um, finishing out school. We also see Duval County having higher percentages of less than ninth grade, and no diploma at all. So when we think about where folks live that have a high school diploma, again, the majority of those people are going to be on the other side of the intercoastal here. There are a few in 32233. And these are kind of the same amount when we look at the count of folks. And then where are the majority of folks that have a bachelor's degree and a graduate degree? I think this is interesting that it seems to me the zip code is much more highly populated here, and continually has more folks when we look at a population ratio. But here we can see Ponte Vedra outpaces that zip code with 6,000 residents with a graduate degree, and it outpaces all of the other parts of the beach as well. This one is 9,000 with a bachelor's degree versus 11,000. And then this is just kind of a time series chart with how educational attainment has changed at the beach. So this is um, the number of residents that have a bachelor's degree or a high school diploma or a graduate degree at the beach. And then this is just a ratio as a percent. So sometimes hard numbers are good, but you want to understand the percentage share of the population. So this, although looks exactly the same, gives a little bit more context, right? So here we have 27% bachelor's degree, 20% high school diploma, 15% graduate degree. Anyway, and that's the data I have to share with you all today.
I'm surprised that it doesn't also break out an associate's degree,
That's a good
or whether
question.
that's even.
Yep.
Because
Associates is here. I
oh,
just
it
I
is.
didn't mention it. Yeah. So
Oh, okay,
associates
okay.
is
Sorry.
no, it's okay. I didn't mention it. The Duval County has higher rates of associate's degree versus the beach.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. No worries.
Allison, in the slide that talked about graduation rates,
Yes, ma'am.
and and there was a kind of that dip in the last 5 years here in Duval. Does it say like where what are they going to work? Are they like does it say where they're going?
No, that's not something that we've looked into, like what kids are doing instead. I think that that's a great question though. I'm gonna write that down.
I guess I just wonder like with the increase now like in trades and different pathways to associates and all of that, I wonder, I guess I'm just trying to figure out are they like dropping out or are they moving towards something else?
Yeah. On Catalyst overall, we do have some data points around, let me pull this up. Trade certifications. Here we have post-secondary enrollment apprenticeship programs. This
Oh,
is it.
cool.
Okay, so here we didn't add it in because there's some good data on apprenticeship programs here on the Florida Department of Education website.
Yeah.
But this does have some really good information here about the number of apprenticeship programs that exist,
Yeah.
things like that, and the share. This one is, hold on, there was one that we did include career and professional education. So this is some data and statistics just at a county level about participation in certifications, right? So this is, I think it's in school certification exams for concentrations in things like Adobe, shop classes, carpentry, and things like that. So here you can just kind of see that it's interesting that St. Johns County places such an emphasis on
Yeah.
those type of programs. And then Duval County here has less participation. So they have this is the number of attempts at a course. This is the number I'm sorry, number of attempts at a test.
Yeah.
This is how many have passed. And this here is it's hard to show on the way that we build these graphs, but Duval County essentially has a 61% pass rate.
Okay.
Whereas St. Johns County has, more taken, more pass, as well as a higher pass rate of 79%.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Um, what else is on here? So post-secondary school enrollment, and maybe this is something to think about adding to the beaches one as well, just about how many people are enrolled in school per
Yeah.
capita post-secondary enrollment. I'll add that. Okay. And just how that's trending. So this was for Northeast Florida overall, and then at a county level. So you can see that Duval County um, has kind of a higher post-secondary per capita enrollment rate than Duval,
Interesting.
which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of opposite there, the certifications.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But the Catalyst dashboard has a lot more data, but it's just a data at a higher level, right? It's not
Yeah.
for the beach's custom geography, but there are really interesting statistics. We were able to get some SAT and
Oh, yeah.
ACT score data here to kind of just talk about what percentage of students are meeting college readiness benchmarks for the ACT, what AP scores, so how many total exams taken, how many test takers there were, and who passed, right? And then this is just kind of the SAT test takers and mean scores as well. Again, all of this is kind of at a county level, so we didn't
Mhm.
include it in the back dashboard,
Mhm.
but maybe we can add in some data and statistics here where available. Again, a lot of it is really at the county level. So whenever I put county level data on the beaches dashboard, people are like, how come I can't get it at the zip code level? How come I? And I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I
No,
just
that's
can't
great,
do
but
it.
it's great to know that I can go on the Catalyst dashboard and see that stuff, though.
Mm-hmm. So here we have some more details around chronic absenteeism and then dropout rates. This is not, this is something we had to import into our dashboard around, it's not necessarily enrollment, right? But it is more around dropout.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of Florida overall, and
Mm-hmm.
then this is by county. So how many percent of students would be considered dropouts? You can see here that Baker County in the region is leading with
Yeah.
dropout rate. Um, and Duval and St. John's are actually kind of the lowest. So good for
Mhm.
us.
Yeah.
This is pretty recent 2024 data as well because it was uploaded by us.
I
I
would
wonder.
say that I'm sorry, go ahead,
No,
Mhm.
go ahead. Go ahead.
that the other counties and the dropout rates, that has to do with the fact that many of those other counties have many more rural
Yes.
areas than we do in Duval County.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even though we're spread out so far, if you
Mhm.
look at the farmland and everything that's down south of us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one is interesting too, where we're looking at kindergarten readiness over time
Mm.
from a county perspective. Um, and our as children enter kindergarten and they take that first standardized test, are they considered ready for
Yeah.
kindergarten?
Mm. I wonder with when we were looking at the certifications and how St. John's had, 79%
Mm-hmm.
pass rate at the high school level, and then it had kind of a higher, but it had a higher number not in higher ed. I wonder if they're just actually getting their certifications in high school and being able to go and work.
Maybe. I mean, nowadays you can make almost more
Right.
in a skilled
Right.
trade job than you can, at some
Yeah.
entry-level college graduate
Yeah.
jobs. So, ooh, I'm not even, I'm gonna bring this. So, and then on here too, we have a lot of leading indicator statistics too. So, SAT participation over time, workforce characteristics, which I think is
Mm,
interesting here. So we have some data and statistics about the number of teachers, um, teachers who are absent more than 10 days,
mm, mm,
which doesn't necessarily take into account maternity leave. So
mm,
this is a little bit misrepresentation sometimes. This is data on our regional education system, so like total school student enrollment, which we talked about on the other dashboard, but this is the number of school counselors
mm.
that are in each, so way more in Duval County than the others, which makes sense. Um, the school expenditures, right? So how much are counties paying in school, and the personnel versus non-personnel expenditures. This is about connectivity and internet providers. This is around English as a second language, bullying, right? There's a lot of data on Florida Health Charts around bullying. And then these are just some social and economic influencers of education, right? So youth arrests, food insecurity, crime, household marital status. Are families, are there more families that are single and married? What those families and that makeup look like. And so we just tried to take some of the influencers of educational outcomes and place them here. Anyways, I could show you guys. I hate to spend so much time doing this.
I'm going to have to skip out. Thank you
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much.
No, thank you so much.
And I
I
will see you all later.
Yes,
Okay.
Donna, I'll send out an
Bye,
email after
Donna.
this, and maybe you can forward it to the rest of the group, see if anybody else can join us.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Oh,
going to send out an
for
email
the
after.
rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I'll try and get that to somebody to put it on the distribution list
Okay,
this
thank you.
afternoon. Okay, great. Thanks. Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
Donna.
Bye.
I
And so I'll just stop. I've been talking a lot, I feel like. Anything that you all wish you saw that we want to talk about as a group?
And you were talking recently about I think that connected youth, is great. And like, so is there like a connected young adult category, like for those kids, like the 19 to 25, kind of to your point of, are they working? Are they in a program? Are they in college or are they kind of lost?
Mm.
Um, so that's kind of right, the next critical age
Yeah.
range, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I haven't thought of that. That's the first time I've ever thought of that. So I love that as an
Yeah.
interesting inflection point, right? Because to your
Yeah.
point, it's such an important
Transition.
transition. Yeah, and I feel like more and more, at least from what I hear at a macro level, more and more people in that age group do feel that kind of lost
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, you know what else would be an interesting statistic too, especially as the world is changing so fast right now, is entering the workforce after college graduation.
Mm.
Because so many students now are getting their degree and then underemployed or
Mm.
unemployed. And, I think that trend is going to really spike.
And
And that like that data is helpful for me at my school because that's really that's
Mm-hmm.
that's the inflection point we're trying to address. And in talking to parents, a lot of parents don't understand that the world has significantly changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some thought that maybe at some point in the future it will change, but like it has already,
It's here.
right? And especially at that age range, right? So that's why I was also trying to figure out that data with
Mm-hmm.
the St. John's certifications, you know, being so much higher, but then their post-secondary being lower. And
Right.
I do think that St. John's has a more robust trades and certification program. And so maybe some of those kids are graduating even with an AA or certainly like
Mm-hmm.
certified to work. Because that's another thing is, right, is how many of those. So now I think people have kind of caught on about the certifications, but a lot of them don't lead to work. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So, um, all that's is interesting and super helpful for me.
Okay. I think that's a really good point. So what I got is how to post-secondary trade. Wait, no. Are we talking about early employment for youth and underemployment? Essentially. Not youth, it would be young adults, right?
Yeah, young adult.
Mhm.
Mhm. Even like 17 to 25, right? Because there's that tick in the graduation rate, that tick down in that graduation rate that I'm sort of curious about, which is
Mhm.
probably that 17, that's, you know, 16, 17, but probably 17.
Right. Junior, senior year of high
Right,
school. What do they do?
right, that situation. And so I'm just like, I'm curious, like, is that where are they lost? Right? You know what I mean? Is that where we're lost and then they go to that disconnected, or
Mhm.
are they going some other route that we haven't tracked or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good questions. I'm interested to see what data we can find for that.
So Janet, I apologize if I missed an introduction, but what program are you with?
Hey, so actually, Beth, I'm a therapist.
Yay.
But I have a school, Colossal Academy, Jacksonville. This is just our second year. We're here at the beach in Jack's Beach.
Okay.
We're a high school program and we're project based, but we're focused on real world learning. So internships, apprenticeships, work, all of that. And some of our kids go to college and some of our kids don't. But we're trying to have our high school look like what their next step is going to be. And
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff is really helpful to me.
Good. That's exciting.
Yeah. And like some of it too, Allison, you know, one of the things that's been a challenge for us is um, internships and apprenticeships during high school,
Mm-hmm.
right? And work
Yes.
too. And you know, there is such a push. Teens want to work,
Yeah.
and you know, not meaning that they just want to drop out of school and work, but they want to like go to school and work now. They want to be in real life. And, you know, employment is tougher for the teens for sure, certainly before 16. But
Mm-hmm.
then internships and apprenticeships are just, I mean, it's sort of hard enough to find them at the college level,
Right.
Right.
but
Right.
it is, you know, we're having
Even
to
harder.
create them ourselves at the high school level. But I do think that is the future of where education is going. So even just sort of thinking for next year when you're looking at the data too, to look at, you know, at teenagers working
Mm-hmm.
and internships, high school internships and apprenticeships too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just think that in the next probably 5 years, there's going to be this huge blur kind of from 15 to 25, you know, that traditional high school,
Right.
college.
Mhm.
It's just real. I mean, it's kind of not there already. And I think really quick, it's good. You know what I mean? It's going to look really different. I do think that the younger, with college being less accessible and less necessary, and the push towards trades and certifications and that onboarding into high school a little bit. I do think, we'll see more high schoolers working, and so then some data around how does that go would be interesting too.
Mhm.
Right.
Or
We,
does that pull them out of educate? You know what I mean? Is there a way?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think we heard some of that. So we recently facilitated conversations for the Kids Hope Alliance needs assessment and gap
Yeah.
analysis, where we talked
Mhm.
to youth employers,
Yeah.
and we had a special
Mm.
session just for youth employers, and that was overwhelmingly what people said is that um, the youth today are looking for ways to kind of cross cut around sometimes hard work, right? They're looking for like a hack mentality where they're like, this, it can't be that hard, right, to do
Right.
all this, right? There's some
Right.
way we can automate it, we can do it, we can do it
Yeah.
faster, better, slower, and
Yeah.
it was hard for them. One of the things that they were teaching youth a lot was that sometimes you just need to sit down and do the work, right? And a lot of them said that at least this, so this was primarily Duval County nonprofits, right? But a lot of them said that teens are looking for third spaces, right? So it's places where they can go and gather in person instead of a virtual place. And there's just not that many places for them to do that comfortably and
Right.
safely in our community at
Mhm.
an older age, right? So not
Right.
necessarily playgrounds or
Right.
trampoline parks and things like that, but things that would
Mhm.
draw older kids to them.
Yeah. That a lot of sense. And I mean, I've seen in like the mom's blog conversations when there's been like the teen takeovers and there was just the skip day and everything,
Um,
like there's nowhere for the kids, the older kids to go, right? The one place was Adventure Landing and that closed.
Wow, right.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That's a real point.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like this idea of some data around the teenage workforce, growth in apprenticeships or internships as something that's critical to their engagement, and then seeing if there's a way to look at data about youth
Yeah.
graduation rates correlated to their employment.
Yeah. And I also, I wish I would have been on that conversation with the youth employers too, because I do hear that all the time, right? A lot of sort of disparaging about the Gen Alpha and the Gen Z. And so it's so interesting because my kids are not those, you know what I mean? My kids are the opposite, right? They all want to work. All of all the employers say to me, they would prefer to have my teenagers than their 20 something, 30 something people.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um, and so I don't know. I'm just curious about that, right? Maybe there's just different segments of the generation. I also wonder though a little bit um, about there is such a gap between generations, and so I also
Mm.
wonder if the employers are
Mhm.
less willing to adapt and adjust as well, because I do
Right.
get the whole kids needing more grit. I agree with that for sure. But also in the world of AI, and you know what I mean, they will need less in you know what I mean, in some way.
Right.
Their desire for things to be faster and easier.
They've
Right.
seen it.
Were raised in that world, and that is the world that we live in now. I think some of us,
Mhm.
certainly, in my generation, haven't got the memo yet, right?
Right. Hmm.
So it's just such an interesting time because it's the kids. Like this is happening to the kids, right? This is the same generation that were the first with the iPhone and the first with the social media, and then had COVID, and now they're going to be the first with AI, and they
Hmm.
just don't
Oh.
look anything like us. They don't look like, they don't think about anything. I mean, it's like a different species, right? And so I just wonder, you know what I mean? Just because my experience with these kids is so different. I mean, my kids work. Like these kids they want to work. Not so much at school. They don't want to work,
Right.
but they want to work, and they are hard workers. And So I hear what everybody says about the generation, but I have questions.
Yeah, I think it was more about them thinking, not understanding sometimes that things take time,
Right.
right? That to
Mm,
sometimes achieve the level of success that you want to achieve,
I
you
get that.
may need to work hard at it for a long amount of time before you reach the level
Yeah.
of success that the influencers that you see on your
Right.
social
No,
media feed, right?
no, I
mhm.
get that too.
Right. Everything else in the world has been so fast and so immediate and so quick and certain
Right.
and like,
Right.
and it's like, right, you're not doing anything wrong, the kind of some of the
Right.
reality. Because when you're same as you were saying, Jan, it's like that mindset of like there must be a better way can be a positive or a negative, right? Is it like there must be a better way? I can figure out how to do this quicker, efficiently. That's good. Or is it
Right.
like there must be a way? I don't really want to mop the floor. Can we like get
Right.
some robot to just mop the floor? So it can be taken depending
Right.
on how it's being presented and how it's
Hmm.
being
Yep.
whatever.
And if
Yep.
you're at Mayo Clinic, there is absolutely a robot that will mop the
Right.
floor for you
Or
and get like new sheets
Right.
brought to your room.
well, right. That's what I mean is like that's some of the question too. Do you know what I mean? You know,
Hmm.
is like, will there may not be entry level anymore.
Mhm.
What does that mean?
Look like.
What does that look like? Yeah. So I guess that's why I'm sort of curious about the teens because, they're the ones,
Hmm.
right? They're the ones who
Critical phase.
are graduating into that. I mean, there's college kids are like in the transition, right? Some of them are some of them, especially if they're in STEM or something like that, or they have their jobs, but there definitely are a lot who are if you had just sort of some kind of liberal arts degree, there are a lot who are working at Starbucks with their, $100,000 liberal arts degree. But like for these teens right now, that's their whole that is their whole we don't even know what their world looks like.
Right,
Hmm.
right.
Right. 5,
Yeah.
8 years from now.
Wild.
Well, that's what they say, right? Yeah. So prepare for a job that you don't know what it's going to be. Okay. How do I do that?
Yeah.
Well, right.
That's very helpful. But then also that know how to read, know how to write, even the way I can write, know how to communicate, know how to be responsible, know how to show
Right.
up,
To have the grit to
all
work.
those things. Like you said, those real life skills, how to like not understand something and stick with it and
Yeah.
all that. Well, I need to get off, but so good to meet you,
Good to
Janet,
meet
and
you.
Yeah.
thank you, Allison, and
Thank
I'll see you again on Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Where do I go here?